In 1998, with funding from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the JFK School of Government at Harvard University produced a report entitled Catastrophic Terrorism: Elements of a National Policy. The report called on readers to imagine an act of catastrophic terrorism that killed thousands, and presented the following conclusions and suggestions in reference to the attack. It could involve loss of life and property unprecedented for peacetime. It could undermine Americans' fundamental sense of security within their own borders. Constitutional liberties would be challenged as the United States sought to protect itself from further attacks. More violence would follow, either as other terrorists seek to imitate the great success, or as the United States strikes out at those considered responsible. Like Pearl Harbor, such an event would divide our past and future into before and after. The report also promoted the creation of 2 new government offices, which would be responsible for the security of the American homeland after an attack. The first proposed office would manage preemptive strikes against suspected enemies, while the second would handle activities that affect prevention, containment, and management of the consequences of a catastrophic attack. Bearing an eerie resemblance to the Department of Homeland Security, the second office was to draw on the resources of the National Guard, FEMA, the Department of Health and Human Services, and other federal, state, and local agencies. Within 3 years, America experienced the catastrophic attack alluded to in the report. The September 11, 2001 false flag attacks. Subsequently, one of the 3 authors of the report, Philip Zelikow, became the executive director of the phony 9/11 Commission. And in 2002, the Department of Homeland Security was created in response to the 9/11 attacks. Unbeknownst to many Americans, detailed plans for Homeland Security had already been developed in the aforementioned report. What began as a witch hunt for alleged terrorists overseas soon arrived back on American shores, where tyrannical government agents refocused on domestic organizations. With basic infrastructure already in place, DHS surged ahead with its plans for a draconian police state. Behold the following abominations: the Patriot Act, the Protect America Act of 2007, warrantless wiretaps and data monitoring, TSA, random pat-downs, random subway bag checks, police checkpoints, military checkpoints in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, the Guantanamo Bay concentration camp, fusion centers, warrantless home raids, anti-gun legislation, license plate scanners, and increased closed-circuit television presence, DHS propaganda spewing telescreens, the internet kill switch, and hundreds more. Some of these new security measures are in direct violation of the 4th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which states, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized." Random searches of airline and subway passengers do not meet the prerequisite of probable cause. This has been substantiated time and time again in a variety of Supreme Court cases related to the 4th Amendment. Homeland Security, the umbrella organization, now includes 187 federal agencies and departments. Frontline PBS recently produced a documentary on what it referred to as the terrorism industrial complex, where they uncovered a massive network of defense contractors scrapping over billions in DHS contracts. The US government is using your tax dollars to cage you in. And still we hear some Americans recite the failed mantra: if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. But you must worry, because new police state tactics go beyond violations of constitutional law and also target the innocent with physical damage. TSA body scanners, also known as backscatter X-ray machines, produce ionizing radiation. The damage from these X-rays accumulates in the body over a period of time. Ionizing radiation causes DNA damage in cells. It is also associated with the following cancers: leukemia, thyroid, skin, breast, bladder, colon, liver, lung, esophagus, ovarian, multiple myeloma, stomach, nasal, pharyngeal and laryngeal, and pancreatic. Groundbreaking research was recently released by the National Academy of Sciences concerning the biological effects of radiation and the dangers inherent in low doses of ionizing radiation. DHS Director Janet Big Sis Napolitano now recommends TSA-style checkpoints for sports stadiums and malls. In the not-too-distant future, Americans may be required to step through X-ray scanners in order to catch a game or visit a mall food court. Furthermore, major media outlets reported that the U.S. government, as well as police departments around the country, are rolling out mobile X-ray units disguised as trucks and vans, which target random vehicles with powerful X-ray beams. The next time you're sitting at a stoplight, your children might be in the back seat, receiving a heavy dose of ionizing radiation without your permission. This ain't no dental X-ray, my friends. Despite the blatant abuses perpetrated by the U.S. government and various state governments, some will brush such actions aside, preferring instead to focus on what they perceive as protection benefits offered by the Department of Homeland Security and the new security measures put in place after 9/11. To be sure, DHS is large and domineering. It is, in fact, the largest government complex in Washington, D.C., and dwarfs the Pentagon. The headquarters costs a whopping $3.4 billion. In addition, DHS built 72 fusion centers across the United States, with a price tag of $420 million. With all of the government contracts in play, DHS will soon ring up over $1 trillion in taxpayer dollars, if it hasn't already. It almost makes you wonder if the $2.3 trillion that went missing from the Pentagon under Donald Rumsfeld's watch made its way into the coffers of Homeland Security. Yet, despite this enormous outpouring of your wealth, DHS and all its high-tech eavesdropping was unable to thwart the underwear bomber incident, the Little Rock recruiting office shooting, the University of Oklahoma bombing, or the 2010 Times Square car bomb incident. Nor did they anticipate the Fort Hood shooting or the Tucson massacre, despite ample forewarning. Now, I suspect that at least some of these events were black ops or false flag operations. But assuming you bought the official government stories, you must admit that DHS security measures and billions of tax dollars failed to avert these acts of terror. In each instance, DHS was nowhere to be found. In conclusion, let us accept the following facts as lessons learned. Haphazardly increasing security measures will eventually harm us all, and no reasonable new security measures will prevent a devoted terrorist from attacking. If we continue down the current path and encourage tyrannical behavior, the freedoms enjoyed by past generations and indeed the principles on which America was founded will be lost forever. As Americans, we should never sacrifice freedom for the promise of security. We must come together and resist en masse any entity that would impose new security measures which overstep the bounds of our Constitution or inherent human rights, and we are already beyond that point. We must also consider fair treatment of other countries and abandon the exploitation and manipulation of foreign governments, which has been the mainstay of our corrupt leaders. As an info warrior, I would like to propose several ideas to counteract Big Brother/Sis and the evolving police state. Number 1. 8.5 by 11 wanted posters with photos citing proven and alleged crimes of the elitists and their underlings. Optional people of interest might include banking magnates, top government officials, corporate thugs, crooked cops, and more. If you can make the posters available online in PDF format, all the better. Number 2. An online database similar to a DHS database. I envision a MySQL database where random activists fill out online forms concerning specific elitists and submit them for review. A small team of activists could vet the evidence in the forms, and if it passes scrutiny, log the information into a live system. The database could be searched online by any visitor using a variety of parameters. And number 3. Although we despise lobbying, as long as it remains lawful, we might use it to defend our own constitutional rights. We need an anti-police state lobby. The NRA had success in defending gun rights, and we can also be successful. This lobby could utilize common loopholes and influence politicians to vote against bills that are detrimental to our freedoms. It could accept donations and follow a model similar to the NRA.